Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, who this world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai is the true name of the Heavenly Father's only begotten Son, who this world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and Rakakwadash is the true name of the Holy Spirit. Rakakwadash meaning Spirit Holy in Paleo Hebrew, and Bahashem is a phrase in the Paleo Hebrew language meaning in the name in the Paleo Hebrew language. All right. And I want to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders, especially of Great Millstone, who rule and teach the 100% truth well. And shalom unto the hopeful elect. And of course, as well as that, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai are the one and only true names that we are to be calling on in these perilous times in order to be eligible to receive salvation. All right. As these other names will not cut it, man. All right. So today, pretty much just another very basic lesson. Some basic things you should not be doing, all right? This is kind of, somewhat of a continuation of basic new believers should know. Albeit I didn't title it that, man. All right, but, this is just a nice little basic lesson, all right? And Lord willing, it's edifying, all right? And refreshing, man, all right? If any of you forgot, some of the scriptures relating to this, man, all right? Albeit, we should all know this, but all right, I'll just go into it, man. All right. But oops, I forgot to read the topic. All right, and the first topic is adultery in LGTV. All right, and by that I do not mean a literal TV, but I mean the rainbow people, man. All right, I mean the moles. All right, that's what I mean. All right, but let's get Exodus chapter 20, verse 14. Thou shalt not commit adultery. All right, there. All right, simple. Okay, and the next verse will pretty much explain what adultery is, man. All right, adultery is a sin unto death, man, and that is by far one of the most important things you should not be doing, man. All right, especially once you have the truth, man. All right, gotta cut that out. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death, man. All right, so adultery is, let's say man number one, all right, has sex with man number two's wife, man. All right, that's adultery. All right, so they would be put to death, man. Okay, verse 11. And a man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood shall be upon them. If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. All right, and this is condemning the rainbow people. All right, they shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Okay, and it goes into more of these sexually immoral acts, man. All right, but again, all right, both of these two actions are sins unto death, man. Okay, and you are to forsake them, man. When you learn this truth, man. Okay, adultery and that rainbow people lifestyle, man. All right, that's not what the Lord intended us to do, man. All right, the Lord made woman for the man. All right, all right, the woman is the seed holder. All right, the man puts the seed in the woman, and that's supposed to be the result of sex. All right, with two men, you get a bunch of HIV and a bunch of sexual diseases, man. All right, and even if that's not the case, you still shouldn't be doing it, man, because the Lord did not intend it that way, man. All right, the Lord has everything in its intended way, man, and you gotta keep it that way. All right, okay, but on to the next topic is getting lineups and tattoos and making boldness on your head. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna jump into it, man. All right, when I have a photo, all right, I'm gonna pull it up, all right, soon, but I'll read this first. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27. You shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Okay. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord Yahweh. All right. And this in 28 is, this condemns tattoos, man. All right. So you're not supposed, and if you got tattoos, well, it's not like you can just take them off, man. All right. But, now you're not supposed to, now that you know this, you're not supposed to get any more tattoos, man. All right. and also that and also taking that MOTB, the mark of the beast, which is the microchip implant, or specifically the RFID microchip and the Neuralink, that's also breaking this law, man. All right, but onto verse 27 real quick. I'm just gonna get a photo. Here it is. Okay, this is an example of marring the beard, man. Okay, and also you see that you're not supposed to have a lineup, man. All right, there's no lineups. All right, you're not supposed to have a lineup, man. All right, this is marring the beard, man, and the quality is not the best, but Lord willing, it's readable. All right, and I'll just read it anyways. All right, so you have the line, there. All right, so you're not supposed to mar the beard either. All right, and you have here, not permitted to mar the corners either. All right, so this is an example of what that verse is talking about, man. All right, just to get a better visual example. Okay, you know and again, let's move on to the next verse, which is Leviticus chapter 21 verse 5, man. All right, and of course, you can cut your hair down, you can shorten it, man, but you're not supposed to do the things that I just showed you, man. Okay, all right, it's just pretty simple. Okay, Leviticus chapter 21 verse 5, they shall not make baldness upon their head. All right, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. Okay, so again, you're not supposed to make baldness upon your head, and this is not talking about like natural baldness, man. All right, no, all right, but you're not supposed to make baldness on your head. You're not supposed to shave your head clean. All right, okay, you're not supposed to do that, man. All right, even if you're going naturally bald, all right, and you're balding, you got a bald spot. Oh, I don't look good. Well, still, you're not supposed to shave off the rest of your hair just to choose being bald, man. No, all right, you gotta stick with what you got, man. Okay, and again, we're still on the topic of pretty much hair and a man's head. All right, but the next topic is a man having long hair. All right, and this is a simple one. All right, and you see many of these Christians with their false depiction of the Messiah, which, by the way, if you somehow do not know, Yahweh Shai, which is the Messiah's true name, is dark skinned, as shown in Revelation chapter 1 and also really a lot of other scriptures. Okay, they are dark skinned. All right, and the Israelites are originally dark skinned too, and well, most Israelites still are dark skinned. But of course, now because all Israelites were, because we Israelites were scattered, man. All right, there's a lot of Israelite foreigners that look like the other nations, man. All right, that look like so-called white man, so-called Chinese, etc., etc., etc. But they're still Israelites because their seed line goes back to Jacob. All right, that's just how it works. All right, but let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 4. Well, this is another one. I didn't mean to get this one, but I might as well just read this one. All right, but this is talking about actually, you know what? Hold on, I'll just skip to verse 14. Okay, doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him, but if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her. Her hair is given for her. Her hair is given her for a covering. All right, so it's a shame for a man to have long hair, man. That's effeminate, man. All right, and of course you have these Christians. All right, I don't think I actually elaborated on what I was gonna say. All right, but you have these Christians with their false depiction of the Messiah. They have them have that long hair, that long feminine hair, with that blue eyes, man. No, he had red eyes first off. All right, and he had white hair. All right, and he did not have long hair, man. Okay. He did not have long hair, man. All right, because that's effeminate. That's just going off, man. All right, and again, the Bible describes the Lord. Exodus chapter 15 verse 3, the Lord Yahweh is a man of war, the Lord Yahweh is his name. All right, that's the Bible describes the Lord multiple times as someone masculine, man. All right, very, very masculine, man. All right, I mean, he, all right, and of course the Lord is male, all right, but the Lord is also, very, very, very much masculine, man. The Bible also describes him as austere, man. All of these are masculine qualities, man. All right, so he's not gonna have all these qualities and then he's gonna have effeminate long hair. All right, he's not gonna have Yahushai, his only begotten son, who was his image. All right, have freaking effeminate long hair. Come on, man. All right, all right. But let's move on to the next topic, which I'm already here. But praying or prophesying with your head covered as a man. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 4. Every man praying or prophesying having his head covered dishonoreth his head. And, well, yeah, that's it. Pretty simple. All right. So when you're praying or you're prophesying, like, let's say you go out onto the highways or byways or preaching, you're not supposed to have a hat covering your head, man. All right. Or you're not supposed to have a hood fully covering your head. No. All right. You're supposed to have your head uncovered, man. And this does not mean that if you wear a headband, all right, around, like your forehead, that means you're going off. No. All right. But again, it just said it itself, man. All right, a lot of these are just self-explanatory, man. Okay, verse 5: But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. Okay. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. All right, so you women are also, supposed to pray. All right, with your head covered, man. All right, so pretty much for a man, all right, if they want to pray or prophesy, well, they gotta, they gotta have their head uncovered. But for the woman, it's the opposite, man. Okay, you know, a woman is not, and of course, a woman. Oh yeah, that's another good one, man. A woman is not supposed to be teaching, man. All right, a woman is not supposed to be going out onto the highways and byways and preaching the Bible. No, that's the man's job, man. All right, the Lord has called men, all right, to do that work, man. All right, the Lord's called men to do that work. Okay, you know, I might get that later. All right, but I might get the woman not teaching, not. I might get the fact that the women are not supposed to teach later. All right, but let's move on to sex on the Sabbath. All right, you are also not supposed to have sex on the Sabbath. All right, and by the way, the Sabbath is dictated by the new moon, and this current Sabbath is, the current weekly Sabbath would be Wednesday sundown to Thursday sundown. All right, it's not Friday to Saturday sundown, albeit sometimes it is, but because when the new moon comes in, that dictates the next weekly Sabbaths until the next new moon, man. So if the new moon comes in on a Monday sundown to a Tuesday sundown, then the weekly Sabbaths are going to be Monday to Tuesday sundown until the next new moon. And whenever that new moon is, all right, it's gonna set up the rest of the weekly Sabbaths, man. And there's a lot of videos about that, man. All right, but let's get Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, okay? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, all right? 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord Yahweh thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. All right, so that's pretty much another thing. You're not supposed to be working on the Sabbath. And of course, we are in captivity, man. All right, we are in hell. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm not gonna go to my job on the Sabbath." No, that's just pretty much that's being over righteous, man. All right, next thing you know, you're gonna lose your job, man. All right, the Lord can forgive you. All right, for for you going off, man. All right, but that doesn't mean that you just disregard the Sabbath. No, you still gotta acknowledge it and keep it holy, man. All right, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Okay. So let's get Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26. Okay? Her priests have violated my law, and have profaned mine holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they shewed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profane among them. To that word profane. Alright. To profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, begin. To profane oneself, defile oneself, pollute oneself, ritually, sexually. To be polluted, be defiled. To profane, make common, defile, pollute. To violate the honor of dishonor. To violate a covenant, to treat as common. To profane. Alright. Let's see. Alright, but pretty much, to profane oneself, defile oneself, pollute oneself, ritually, sexually. Alright, when you have sex, you become ritually unclean, man. Alright, you become unclean, okay? Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16 to 18. And if any man's seed of copulation, his sperm, go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the even. Okay? And every garment and every skin whereon is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. Until the even. Alright? The woman also with whom man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even. All right, and you're supposed to be clean during the Sabbath, man. That's a part of, that's a part of keeping it holy, man. All right, being clean on the Sabbath, man. All right, and also you're supposed to abstain from pretty much doing your own pleasure, man. All right, on the Sabbath, okay, whatever your own pleasure may be, okay. Let's get Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and of course, sex is very much pleasurable, man. All right, you're supposed to rest on the Sabbath, man. Okay, and the angels, they also rested, on the Sabbath, albeit their Sabbath was on a different time scale from ours. Okay, but they also rested from creating. Okay, all right, and the Bible mentions that pretty much the angels labor not, man. Okay, they that creation was not laborious, man. It wasn't. It was not at all, man. Okay, they don't get tired. All right, they don't. It wasn't laborious for them. Okay, so but they still rested, man. Okay, so for us, we should be resting from our own pleasures on the Sabbath as well, man. All right. Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, all right, holy meaning separate, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord Yahweh honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, okay? Don't do your own thing. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord Yahweh hath spoken it. Okay? Alright? So, you're not supposed to have sex on the Sabbath. That's very wicked, and that's evil. And also, you're just, in general, not supposed to be unclean on the Sabbath, man. And having sex literally makes you unclean on the Sabbath. And, of course, it's a very, very pleasurable thing have sex on the Sabbath, man. So you are going off if you have sex on the Sabbath, man, and the Lord can kill you for that, man. All right, and the final one is eating unclean foods. Example: pork, catfish, duck. All right, let's start at Leviticus chapter 11, verse 2. All right. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. All right, let's get the word cheweth the cud. Refers to the process of ruminating, where an animal regurgitates its partially digested food to chew it, or it can describe, but yeah, all right, the ruminating. It is the process by which animals like cows, sheep, and deer partially digest their food, then bring it back up to their mouths to chew again. Okay, all right. Among the beasts that shall ye eat, nevertheless these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof. As the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And you're not supposed to eat them if they're unclean, man. Alright, and there's a punishment for that, man. Alright, but why? Well, really, there's reasons, man. Alright, and especially if you are to search up, some of the crazy diseases that a lot of these people get from eating stuff like pork, man. Alright, you see why the Lord has made it so that these animals are not supposed to be eaten, man. All right, because a lot of these unclean animals that people eat, all right, that people like to eat are mostly bottom feeders, man. They eat freaking anything, man. Like literally anything, man. All right, and again, they say you are what you eat. Okay, and the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. Okay? And the swine, aka pig, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. Okay? Alright, so you're not supposed to touch their dead carcass either, man. Alright? And don't try to be slick. You get a pepperoni pizza, then you pull off the pepperoni. Nope, don't even do that, man. All right. Okay, and now it's going to talk about seafood. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. And this one's really simple. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. This shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses an abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins or nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. That very, very simple. That's it. Snap. That's it, man. That's it. Okay. Very simple. It's not complicated, man. All right. So stuff like catfish, crab, shrimp, lobster, those are all unclean, man, and they're not to be eaten. That's it. It's simple. All right. And there's still lots of clean food, man. All right. Verse 13, and these are they which ye shall have an abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the ossifrage and the osprey and the vulture and the kite after his kind. Every raven after his kind. And the owl and the night hawk and the cuckow and the hawk after his kind. And the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl and the swan and the pelican and the gier eagle and the stork and the heron after her kind. And the lapwing and the bat. All fowls that creep going upon all four shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind. All right, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. Alright, and for these ye shall be unclean. Whosoever toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean unto the even, and whosoever beareth aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean unto the even. Alright, the carcasses of every beast which fighteth the hoof and is not cloven footed nor cheweth the cud are unclean unto you. Everyone that toucheth them shall be unclean. Okay, and whatsoever goeth upon his paws among all manner of beasts that go on all 4, those are unclean unto you. Whoso toucheth the carcass shall be unclean unto the even. Okay. Alright, and it goes on and on and on. Alright. So you can read the rest of this chapter, man. Alright, but overall you're not supposed to eat these unclean animals, man. Alright, and there's a punishment for that. But I believe it might be in Isaiah chapter 19. No, it's probably not. I think it's 17. Nope. Alright. But let's get it. Here we go. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15. For behold, the Lord Yahweh will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke of flames of fire. But by fire and by his sword will the Lord Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord Yahweh shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord Yahweh. All right, so if you're, so again, eating that abomination, man, that's gonna get you killed, man. Okay, eating that unclean food, that's going to offend the Lord, and that can very much get you killed, man. All right, okay, but really that was eating unclean foods, man. All right, so again, if you do verse 17, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord Yahweh. All right, so you're going to be consumed if you do those things, man. All right, so if you're consuming abomination, all right, consuming pig, swine, pork, and lobster, and especially if you don't listen, man, the Lord is going to get you, man. All right, okay, but if that, again, Lord willing, that was edifying. All right, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. Shalom wa abatabal. Shalom.